Hi, welcome to All Things Home Care with Dana Arnone. I'm your host, Dana Arnone, a registered nurse with over 30 years of home health care experience. Today we have a great pleasure and a guest, Bob Palacastro. He is the founder and CEO of Angela's House. Hi, Bob, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dana. I appreciate you having us here.
Yes, tell us a little bit about Angela's House and exactly what is it that you guys offer.
Well, we work with children that are medically fragile, chronically ill, kids with life-threatening illnesses, and we try to get the supports so families are able to care for their children at home. And then for those kids that can't be cared for at home, we actually have 3 first-of-their-kind group homes with 24-hour nursing that can care for them. And one of them actually can even care for kids that are ventilator dependent. So it's a silent population. It's a population that, not a lot of people understand. So for me, it's been a 32-year journey. Angela was my daughter. Unfortunately, due to an accident at birth, left her very frail. And so as a parent, I experienced this myself. And unfortunately, over 30 years ago, the supports were not there. So it really pushed us to create our nonprofit to be able to support families that are going through this.
So what is the first step for somebody if something like this happens?
A parent is always thinking they're going to have a healthy child. So when a situation or diagnosis comes across to them, the devastation is just overwhelms them. So once they're referred to us, we can let them know that there are supplemental, waivered, or exceptions to the rule within Medicaid that allows a family, even middle class, to get the child onto Medicaid supports. And that's a deal breaker because that then allows them to support home care and all the state plan services and other supports. So that's critical.
So is there a timeline that they have to meet, or do you ever find that most of the kids that are being referred to you automatically meet the criteria? Because I know like in our scenario, it's about 90 days. You have to have an issue for 90 days or longer in order to apply for community Medicaid.
What we find is that the child has to have kind of like at least 2 syndromes or medical problems to have them qualify for what is now referred to as the Children's Health Home, formerly the Care at Home program. And then that puts that child into the system where they can receive Medicaid supports.
Okay.
So that's, again, it's critical because a parent trying to do this on their basic insurance, it just doesn't happen.
Right. So, and what is the age that we're talking about now?
So we work with kids from birth all the way through to 21.
So when they're done with your program, you refer them to another program after the age of 21? And does the services stay the same?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. We've made a decision years ago that we would stay with the kids that we work with and not kind of take it any broader because that's important. Whereas when you get 18 and 21, you sometimes fall into the category of the broader adult regular Medicaid programs, and people won't have the same expertise.
So I'm curious, what's the difference between someone being in a home and being in their home? Like, is there a skill need that makes that determining factor? Like, can everything that's done in the group home be done in the home if the parents are willing to have that be done there?
The first thing I would say is never due to a lack of love. But a lot of times the marital strains, the financial strains, the emotional strains, the physical strains, even if you are that lucky parent, which is not easy to get these, that has even 24-hour care, there are many nights, the sleepless nights because somebody didn't show up for a shift. So it takes a toll on a parent. So even in the best case scenario, they get worn out. And then when they know that there's an alternative, it gives them the peace of mind that, the same agency that was supporting them in the home care community can live in one of our homes.
So if they're living in one of your homes and their 21st birthday comes,
we let them stay in the home.
Till they're 50?
With the affiliation of agencies that we have, there are opportunities where there's intermediate care facilities and other group homes that, as an example, after we built our first Angela's House, we advocated to get another home for 30, 40-year-olds. So if kids can transfer into that home, that becomes a transfer within kind of like the unit of families that were in some cases in the same houses that we've been together with. But right now, with the difficulty over the past 10 years, we have more and more kids that are late teenage, young 20s, and up. It's just unfortunate that once the system stopped building additional homes, it just caused that backlog where people are getting stuck in nursing homes or even getting sent out of state facilities, or parents struggling at home trying to care for their loved ones.
What's the answer though?
Well, the way we have resolved it within ourselves is created additional intermediate care facilities that has the ability to continue handling children or young adults or adults that are medically frail. But I feel the system definitely needs more to support that.
More what? More
Both more homes and also funding, because the level of care is a lot more intense than in a nursing home. You need more nurses and you need
better skilled
higher
people.
level of care to be able to handle. Like I mentioned, like our Stony Brook home has the ability to handle ventilated dependent kids. One of my kids from the other home became medically where he needed that level of support, and we actually moved him there even though he was older, because we felt he's been with us. We needed to continue his care somehow. So in our world for here on Long Island, we're managing, but I would like to do more than just manage.
So Bob, I know that we're both on similar paths as advocates, especially with the crisis that we're facing in home care, both on your side and my side. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to have the conversation, but we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to All Things Home Care with Dana Arnone. We're going to continue our conversation with Bob Palacastro. He is the founder and CEO of Angela's House. So Bob, before break, we were just starting our conversation about similar advocacies that we're fighting for right now, which is that we have a staffing crisis both in home care and I'm sure in the group homes that you're working with as well. The issues for us generally comes down to salary. They're one of the, for home care workers, they're one of the lowest paid professions. And we really are very strongly advocating for them in respect of fair pay for home care, at least a living wage. Is that something that you're finding as well as an issue?
Oh, it's a tremendous issue. It's been an issue for quite some time right now. And I'm glad to hear others joining in the advocating, because, the group of individuals, both in home care and in the group homes, it used to be a profession well above minimum wage. And for years, it just was never increased to a point that kept it at that level. And then when the state went to the major move of increasing the minimum rate, we were going back to the state and saying, listen, what about home care and group homes? How do you survive trying to compete with somebody flipping a burger? Nothing against that, but the profession was the home care model. The people that loved giving of themselves to help care for people in their own home or in a group home. So it's a major issue.
We talk about COVID, here and what happened during the time of COVID and how, no one ever recognized the home care worker or the group home workers. You never heard anybody say, they're wonderful, thank you. Because without them, people went without food or their medicine or water, human contact. Most cases, that home care worker was the only individual that they saw for months.
The group homes had to go into a shutdown mode, and they had to limit their own lives because they understood they were caring for others that were frail and could be more susceptible if they got COVID. That's the personality and the wherewithal of the people that work in those environments.
The staffing crisis we thought was going to get better. COVID was lessening a little bit. Unemployment went away, and it hasn't returned. And the only thing that we really can say it's the salary.
And I struggle with understanding, because we all know home care is fantastic. And if you're not supporting a person in home care and they have to be institutionalized, the amount of money that the
It's a
state would
no-brainer,
probably,
I know.
And it's as if they don't want to pay in home care, but they'll let them go to a nursing home, which really just takes the heart out of somebody because that they want to be in their own home.
We did a statistical report during COVID, and one of the things that we found was that the people that we transported, Uber style, went to work every day. They felt safer going to work every day. They were during their 8-week period of time. Their patients were not hospitalized. They did not develop COVID, or they were lessened the exposure to COVID. And we were able to keep these people home, the patients home, for an indefinite period of time, just by giving them consistent, safe care. So we use that to show that if that person didn't have that consistent care, the likelihood of them being hospitalized during that period of time is like, I don't know, like 90%, and we kept them home. So their legislators know that.
Kept them alive.
Kept them safe and alive and
because,
happy.
Because
yes.
if they had gotten COVID, they wouldn't be with us.
They wouldn't
because
be.
So if you transferred to a hospital at that point, you were pretty much saying goodbye to them. And I think our legislators and even our federal government needs to say, hey, look, you got the baby boomers are here now. It's a larger population, and you have two choices. Do you want to spend money and make it a profession and give them the best care possible? Or do you want to institutionalize them at so much more money? Like, somebody has to wake up to that fact, because in order for us, when we're dealing with the children, it's the same thing. If a parent can't get the support in home care, you burn them out. So even with that additional support, is hard. So, but if you had permanent care, it changes everything. We also see that the problem is also for the funding for nursing in home care, which hasn't been touched in years. Nobody will even take the Medicaid rate. So the catch-22 that's out there. So that was going on for years. Then parents were saying, all right, we'll take this other home care option, the Consumer-Directed Personal Assistance Program, which allows you to maybe get some supplemental services or a home health aide. When they started making that difficult, then the parents were throwing their hands up in the air. So, all right, so the Medicaid rate won't give me the nursing, and now I can't find somebody for home care. And that's the same thing what's happening in the group homes. The group homes have statewide, it's got a vacancy rate of 30 to 40%, and it's a major crisis. We're hearing of homes having to close temporarily to move people to other homes, to have parents take their kids back home. Never before have we seen this. So it has to be addressed.
How could they reach you to join your advocacy and really start to get this to where people are going to start to have to listen?
We have our main number, which is Angela's house, and it's 631-979-2620. The entire system needs to be revamped. 10 years ago, we would say, well, what if? Well, we're there now.
I always say it's the perfect storm.
Yes.
Like we have patients that go without services, or the families have to say, I'm going to not go to work and I'm going to stay home and take care of my loved one because there's no one to care for them. And that just shouldn't be. But, I think right now is a very good opportunity for people to start advocating more and more for home care and for group homes, because I think now the way the climate is, I do believe that they're starting to listen.
And we have to take this discussion, which has been hidden below, and pushed down, and we got to bring it up to the top. Give the poor people that have lived and thought of their retirement, of finishing out in their own home, give them that opportunity to be able to live comfortably in their own home.
Yeah, well, you definitely have our support, that much I can tell you. I thank you so much for you coming and having a conversation. I learned a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people did as well. Well, that's all the time we have for this segment on All Things Home Care with Dana Arnone. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Hi, welcome to All Things Home Care with Dana Arnone. We are out and about again today, and we are in Atlantic Beach visiting the lovely home of Missy and Brandon Miller. Missy, you might recognize her as an Assemblywoman who is really in the forefront of the fight for the developmentally disabled. So we are here to talk about what I speak about all the time, is the staffing crisis in home care. And not only affects the homebound elderly, but there is also a very large population that relies upon the home care workers and the givers in their home, and that's somebody like your son Oliver. So let's start with your day. And talk a little bit about Oliver and what diagnosis or what his limitations are.
So Oliver is 21, almost 22, which is in itself a miracle because they didn't think that he would live through toddlerhood. He had a stroke in utero, so he has a very unique brain injury that has left him with many medical issues that have worsened over the years, as well as developmentally disabled. Every single thing that he's ever needed, we've had to fight for. And we're living in a society where our most vulnerable are just overlooked and discarded. Mm-hmm. And, I shouldn't have had to fight for everything he needed from the time he was little. At one time, New York was like the gold standard. We had plenty of home care supports. We had, programs for everything. And it's just been underfunded. And I was saying 5 years ago when I first got elected, you have a crisis right in front of you and you're not acknowledging it. And now we are full blown in the crisis. Mm-hmm.
So let me just ask you this question. So I know we were talking earlier about the age of 21. That seems to be the pivotal time of change of, I guess, what's available to certain people. So why don't we talk about that?
Well, until you're 21 in the state of New York, if you have disability, if you have what's called an IEP, the Individualized Educational Plan, you can stay in school environment, the school system, until you're 21. And then after 21, in that last year of school, you go and you look for different types of programs. There's a transitioning team that's supposed to help you and send your child's packet out around to different programs, and you go and look, and you come up with a program that you think would be most appropriate. That is like non-existent at this point, especially with COVID, but there are less programs available as a whole for the population of students who are coming out of school after 21. There are virtually hardly any, if any, center-based programs where they're not going out into the environment, into the community every day. There are a lot of children, a lot of young adults now, who that's not appropriate for, mm-hmm. my son being one of them. I could have $1 million. I cannot build him a program that would be comparable to what he's in right now, mm-hmm. where he has physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, vision therapy. I say all the time, my son, he didn't get that memo that he's supposed to not need that anymore.
So when we're talking about the staffing situation that's going on that you're faced with as well as many others, what is the issue that you're finding?
They are not paid enough. We have the population of individuals with medical and developmental disabilities. With medical advances, they're living longer, they're out doing more things. And you have your senior population. They're living longer because mm-hmm. of medical advances. They want to stay in their home. We have this humongous need, and nobody's looking at the elephant in the room. Mm-hmm. You need to pay them more.
Why don't we go through exactly what Oliver's day looks like?
He sleeps in with me. I got a king-size bed, and he sleeps in there with me because I'm his nurse at night, and he needs nursing care overnight. He has apnea, and so we always have to he's on monitors 24/7. If he has a seizure, we have to mark it. He has electrode implants in his brain. He gets medications throughout the night. He'll have to be repositioned. Depending on whether he has a good night where he's sleeping and his body temperature stays up and he'll sleep right through. I'm the one that just has to get up every few hours mm-hmm. to give him his meds and reposition him. We're usually out here on a day where he's going to go to school, like today. We're out here by 7 a.m. so that I can hook up his feeding, which takes an hour. And today was a good day. He had just a few seizures at school. He would require a nurse if he goes to an adult day program. He will require a nurse at that program as well.
And if you guys weren't here, he would require a nurse here. Mm-hmm. How do you work? Like without the supportive staff to come and help you in your home, you're basically the caretakers, obviously, but you can't work.
Well, we were a much more traditional household. He was out working during the day. He worked in New Jersey, so he would leave at 5 in the morning mm-hmm. and get home at 7-ish at night. And so it was me all day. And we had more nursing back then. We had nursing probably, I think, 4 days a week. When I got elected, he took the nights shift for his job from home, so he would be able to be around here with Oliver. I could go back and forth to Albany during session, and it's a 3-hour drive. I'd drive up there in the morning, work, and then come back that night and do the same, the next day. When we started getting into 3-day weeks up in Albany, 4-day weeks, it started getting a little bit much because my night nurse had retired. We couldn't find another night nurse, and I had to be here for overnight. So we started bringing him up to Albany.
Yeah, but what's amazing to me that you're, what's going through my mind is right now that you're bringing your son up there because you can't leave him home, because you can't get staff to take care of him at home. You're physically bringing him up to Albany where they see him and they see your struggles and they see what you're going through, and it's not something that you're making up, it's the reality, and there's still nothing gets done.
I can't tell you how many other assembly members have come up and thanked me for bringing him. They're like, we need to see him. We need to see this is what real life is. This is how the decisions we make affect other people.
Missy, this conversation is so important, and I know there's so many people that want to hear your story and learn how to maybe help you advocate for themselves. So if you don't mind, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and rejoin the conversation. Welcome back to All Things Home Care with Dana. We are still out and about in the home of Mr. and Mrs. Miller. Another thing that you were discussing that I think is a great idea too is a career pathway. So for the individuals that take on these jobs. So what does that look like to you?
Invest in a career pathway for this profession. Make it an actual profession. You start here, entry level, then you work up and you get a pay raise, and you have a little bit more responsibility. You can laterally move to a different environment where maybe they have a little bit more challenging behaviors. You get a pay raise for that. So that there is an incentive to keep moving up, to keep, you don't want anybody getting sick or burnt out, so you change, within your skill set, or you keep growing your skill set. Offer courses on the more challenging behaviors, or if there's something that's medical but not skilled, offer training in that and certify it so that they are able to do that level of care. The state needs to step in and invest in this, and it's got to be a long-term investment. I'm
very fascinated by the two of you. Just to me, like the commitment that the two of you have, not only to yourself, to each other, but your son, is admirable.
For 17 years, I was the, caregiver to Oliver, and he could, do the fatherly things. He could change a diaper, he could carry him, but he never did the medical things. He was at work all day. It was me. And it was very hard to switch and to say, you do it. I had to bite my tongue a lot that, he didn't diaper the way I did, or he did.
That's my ways.
Luckily, he doesn't seem to talk that much, so it seems to be okay.
I had to get very good at, if you want help, shut up. Don't say anything, because he's helping. And that's, so we've learned and we grew together with this, but it was hard. It was very hard.
How could they call and help you get them help?
We don't care where you live. If you're in New York State, I'm going to help you. I have other members that are giving my name and number to their constituents. But the biggest thing that you can do, the biggest message, is write and call Governor Hochul. Because she's new, we have a chance that maybe she will want to invest in us. Maybe she will invest in, budgeting this into the yearly budget. So we can pay our DSPs more, we can pay our nurses more, we can incentivize the home care programs that are so desperately needed throughout the state. So Governor Hochul ultimately is the one who's going to call the shots.
Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity, really, to have show your story to so many people that are going to be watching and probably have had similar situations, or maybe they just are at their wits' end, they don't know which way to turn. So seeing other families that are going through it and are advocating for them, I think is going to mean so much to the people that are watching. So I appreciate that as well, especially even from the home care, the elderly side and the homebound side. I hope that you can see that we have a lot of similarities and the fight is the same. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of All Things Home Care with Dana Arnone. If you want to know more about the topics that we covered today, or someone you know needs assistance, you can find our numbers, links, and watch all of our episodes on our website, allthingshomecare.org. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and always know that there is no one more essential than those who come to care for you in your home. We'll see you next time.
All Things Home Care elevates and supports home health caregivers by providing transportation and promoting education to better care for homebound seniors and the disabled. To find out more or to make a donation, visit us at allthingshomecare.org.